Australia has a well-earned reputation for biological hostility. The continent is home to 20 of the world's 25 deadliest snakes, highly toxic spiders, and birds like the southern cassowary that are fully capable of killing a human. Yet the wild, dangerous outback we know today is actually a refined, quieter version of the continent's past. To find the true extreme, you have to rewind the clock about 50,000 years. This marks the exact moment the very first human beings stepped onto Australian shores. These early humans possessed no natural armor. They had no fangs, no venom, and soft, highly vulnerable skin. And while the rest of the planet's ecosystems were dominated by large mammals, Pleistocene Australia followed a different path. Here, the apex predators ruling the landscape were massive reptiles. Stepping onto those beaches meant a species uniquely unequipped for physical combat had just walked completely blind into a landscape of specialized killers. The open grasslands were the hunting territory of Quincana. While it looked remarkably like a modern crocodile, it possessed a distinct biomechanical advantage. Its legs were unusually long and positioned directly underneath its body, allowing it to lift its torso entirely off the ground and sprint across dry land. It also carried immense mass. The largest specimens on record stretched up to 20 feet in length. Modern crocodiles use blunt, conical teeth to grab prey and drag them underwater to drown. Quincana didn't need water. It possessed zyphodont teeth, highly compressed, blade-like, and deeply serrated. These were built to slice off massive chunks of flesh in a single strike. Escaping the rivers and running onto dry land offered zero protection. You were simply running from a massive, sprinting crocodile that attacked with the slicing mechanics of a theropod dinosaur. Moving out of the open plains and into the scrubland only traded one apex predator for another. This was the domain of Megalania, a giant monitor lizard that grew up to 26 feet long. To understand how it hunted, we look to its closest living relative, the Komodo dragon. Because every living monitor lizard carries venom in its bite, paleontologists strongly suspect Megalania did as well. This lizard likely relied on chemical warfare. It would ambush its prey, land a massive bite, and then retreat into the brush. The venom worked as a powerful anticoagulant, preventing the blood from clotting until the animal simply collapsed from massive shock. Seeking safety near the waterholes presented an entirely different threat. Wanambi was a primitive constrictor snake that grew to the size of a modern 20-foot python. This diagram compares the feeding mechanics of modern snakes to ancient ones. Where modern snakes can unhinge their jaws to swallow massive prey whole, Wanambi was restricted by a completely locked, rigid jaw. Because it couldn't swallow a large animal whole, Wanambi compensated with pure violence. Once it crushed the life out of its prey, it used immense muscle power and sharp teeth to physically tear the animal to pieces. The environment offered no refuge. Whether you were poisoned and left to bleed out in the scrubland, or crushed and shredded by the water, ancient Australia was a gauntlet of extreme reptilian biology. To survive in a landscape ruled by reptile kings, Australia's mammals evolved their own specialized weaponry. Up in the tree canopy lurked Thylacoleo, the marsupial lion. Despite the fearsome name, it wasn't a feline. Its closest living relative is actually the sleepy, docile koala. But looking at this chart of mammalian bite forces reveals its true nature. Thylacoleo possessed the strongest bite pound for pound of any known mammal. It rockets past the bite force of an African lion that outweighs it by 2.5 times. It combined that crushing jaw with blade-like premolars and giant retractable claws mounted on semi-opposable thumbs. This allowed it to sever a windpipe in under a minute and effortlessly drag heavy carcasses up into the branches. Even the local herbivores were built like armored tanks. Diprotodon looked exactly like a modern wombat, except it weighed nearly 4 tons, the size of an Asian elephant, and chewed plants with 11,000 newtons of force. That's enough pressure to cleanly snap a human femur. The relentless hostility of this landscape drove a biological arms race, producing a cast of predators and prey equipped for lethal efficiency. By all laws of biology, a slow, soft-skinned primate walking into this gauntlet should have met immediate extinction. The fossil record tells a different story. Across the continent, researchers have uncovered evidence that these early humans were hunting the very megafauna that should have been hunting them. While the animals relied on venom, serrated teeth, and crushing jaws, humans brought an entirely different set of weapons: cooperative intelligence and fire. Human predation was so highly organized and effective that it directly contributed to the eventual extinction of these massive creatures. In a land that consistently pushed the limits of biological lethality, the most successful apex predator to ever set foot in Australia was us.